It's November of 2020. We've got a nice month of change. And we have an election, we have daylight savings time ending, and we have the night sky getting dark very, very quickly and for longer and longer. We've got all 5 naked eye planets easily visible at different parts of the night, and we've got a Leonid meteor shower during mid-month, and the moon makes its monthly visits in line with the planets. So, welcome to Observing with Webb for November of 2020, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. So, what do we have going on for November? I know it's late. I'm recording this on November 11th, but that's just in time to get to the first event for November. But let's start off with talking about what planets you can see. So I'm hoping you've already been checking this out, but if you look south on most nights, you should be able to see Saturn and Jupiter right nearby each other, okay? Plus, as you get out after dinner, you'll be able to see Mars this month as well. So really what you're looking for, just after sunset, you'll be able to see Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars up there. Now, Saturn and Jupiter are getting closer and closer. They've actually been getting noticeably closer over the past couple weeks. And they're up there, but only for a short time. In fact, they set around 8:30 by the end of the month. So if you want to see Saturn and Jupiter, you're going to have to get out there around sunset, which is about 5 p.m. at the end of the workday. So get out there and check out Saturn and Jupiter. Now, over the next little while, they're going to get closer and closer together. And by the end of the month, they're even closer. Remember, December 21st, they're going to be super duper close. So Saturn and Jupiter, that is the first thing you want to check out there. Nice and beautiful. But then if you're looking at Saturn and Jupiter toward the south or southwest, all you have to do is look about, I'd say 90 degrees to the left and look almost, pretty much up, about halfway up the sky, and you'll see beautiful red Mars. Now, Mars is brighter than everything else around it, so is Saturn and Jupiter. So if you're looking for planets this month, just look for the bright spots in the sky. But Mars will definitely have a reddish glow to it, and it'll be not quite as twinkly as the other stars, and it's gorgeous. Now, with all 3 of these, you can look at them through a telescope. Mars will not be that impressive. It's getting smaller in the sky because we're passing it in its orbit. But Saturn and Jupiter, as always, are awesome in a telescope. So if it were me, I'd be taking it out to see Saturn and Jupiter and go see what you can find on Mars. But you need really clear skies in order to see Mars. Just a quick thing about Mars. We have, it's going to set, around 3 a.m. by the end of the month. Okay, 5 a.m. at the beginning, 3 a.m. at the end. So in the morning, you won't be able to see Mars. But evenings, this is the gorgeous thing. Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. Now, we've got some morning stuff, though, too. So let me move ahead to, whoops, that went way too fast. 5 in the morning, ooh, look at that. Okay, we've got Venus and Mercury. Let me get the moon out of there just to reduce the confusion for now. But yeah, we've got Venus and Mercury. So these are the other 2 naked eye planets. Now, Venus will be rising around 4:30 on November 1st and around 5:45 in the morning on the 30th. Venus is bright, it's brilliant, it's gorgeous, brightest thing out there. That's easy to find. Now, the one that's not quite so easy to find is Mercury. Mercury is closer to the sun, so it kind of gets drowned out by the sunrise. But this is a really good month to see it. If you've never seen Mercury, go out this month, especially in the middle of the month over the next 2 weeks. It's what you have to do is get out after 6:45 in the morning, but before sunrise, about an hour, excuse me, and then look east-southeast. It's going to be low on the horizon. As you can see, Mercury is right there. But what you can do is use Venus as a guide, right? So Venus is up here. Okay, it's only about 21 degrees above the horizon. Mercury is about 10 degrees. So there should be about a fist width separating Venus and Mercury. And so just use that and you should be able to find Mercury. Mercury is not worth looking through a telescope, but Venus can be, and it can look pretty nice right about now. Okay? All right, so Mercury and Venus in the mornings. Just note that Mercury kind of fades away the last week and you're just left with Venus. And then in the evenings is when you have Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter.
And a bunch of other stuff. And a bunch of other stuff. And a bunch of other stuff.
So what are we looking at as far as events? Well, let's see. It's the 11th, so we're looking at some morning crescents. So you have to look at the east in the morning. The new moon is on the 15th. That's when it's darkest and right near the sun. Then after that, from the 15th to the 22nd, we should be able to get some evening crescents, the beautiful crescent moons that we look forward to. Now, on the 22nd is the first quarter. It's half lit up, visible until midnight. And then we have some evening gibbous moons where they're pretty bright, mostly lit after sunset. And then, lastly, the full moon is on the 30th. So if we get some snow around that time, the full moon is going to illuminate that very, very well. Now, it is the 11th, so let's go with the close encounter that we're going to have on the 11th. Now, to the 13th. You have to get out there in the morning. So really, tomorrow morning is when you want to get out there. And you want to look toward the east. There we go. And you see Venus, the moon, and Mercury, right? So, like I said, you can find Venus pretty easily. We already talked about that. But on the morning of the 12th, the moon will be up here, pretty close, but above Venus. And then on the morning of the 13th, the moon is going to be right in between Venus and Mercury. And I know, even on the screen, you can barely see the moon. That's because it's close to the sun from our perspective. And so only a very, very tiny part of it is being lit up. I think this is going to be somewhat of a challenge. So you want to get a nice, clear view of the horizon. But again, look for Venus, 22 degrees, and the moon is only 5 degrees away. So if Venus is here, Mercury is here, the moon will be right in between, only about 3 finger widths apart. That brings us to the 17th, which is the Leonid meteor shower. Now, there's not much to display on the screen here, but I will go to November 17th, and what you'll notice is that in the morning before sunrise is Leo the Lion. That's a constellation that's up there, almost all the way up in the sky. The backward question mark with the right triangle to the left of the question mark. And what we're getting here is that there will be meteors appearing to come from a spot in Leo. That's why they're called the Leonids. The radiant is in Leo. So they might come from Leo and go down toward the south, or over toward the east, or west, or over toward the east. It'll come from that spot. Now, this year, it's only going to be about 10 to 15 per hour, which is pretty typical for the Leonids. But the Leonids can have some really wonderful years. See, what happens is the comet that it's coming from actually goes around the sun and leaves a trail of dust, and the Earth travels into that dust, crashes into it. The atmosphere and the meteor crash, and the meteor heats up the atmosphere in front of it, crushes it, pressures it, heats it up so fast that it creates heat and light and actually breaks itself apart. Now, 2020 is a good year for the Leonids because we have a new moon. There's no light pollution up there aside from what you have from the lights around where you live. And the peak is going to be between 3 and 5:30 a.m. Now, again, meteor showers are best in the morning, but if you just go out at night, go for it. Now, my typical advice is to go out there Make sure you're on a swimming pool floaty or a chair or a hammock so that you can stay warm and the ground doesn't suck all the heat away from you. Make sure that you check ahead of time that the weather's going to be good. Make sure that you don't use your phone. You can get red screens online or on some apps to make the screen red, which makes it not as bad, but it's still not the best. But the number one thing I think is put aside 15 to 30 minutes. Okay? Put aside 15 to 30 minutes for you to just sit out there and watch. Because if you put aside that time, you're most likely going to see something good. If you just go out there for a minute, you're unlikely to see something. It could happen, but it's unlikely. And especially if you look away, you just want to zone out on the sky and just appreciate it. Okay? Don't get distracted. Take some time, practice some mindfulness, watch some meteors. Okay? And report back. I want to hear what it's like. All right, so that is the 17th, the morning of the 17th, although you'll see some a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after, so keep your eye out. Then we've got on November 18th and 19th. Let's see, I got to switch over to PM because what we've got going on the 18th is a nice close encounter, actually 18th and 19th, a nice close encounter between the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn. So again, Jupiter and Saturn are in the sky, not for too long, but the crescent moon, like we talked about, is just gorgeous. So on the 18th, the moon is down and to the right, and on the 19th, the moon is down and to the left. And so it just makes this beautiful, beautiful little triangle in the night sky, and they're easy to find. So if you've been looking for Saturn and Jupiter and you don't know what you're looking at, find the moon on the 18th or the 19th. Now, what you'll notice, if you take a look at the sky every night for the next couple nights, you'll notice that the moon gets a little bit higher and a little bit closer to Mars, and it gets bigger each time. And so on the 25th, we have a nice close encounter between the moon and Mars. Whoop. And so you've got a nice waxing gibbous moon getting within, I think, 5 degrees of Mars. So that'll be about 3 finger widths apart. Okay. And that's really the events for the month. Remember Moon, Venus, Mercury on the morning of the 12th and 13th. Leonid meteor shower on the 17th. The 18th and 19th at night is the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn. And 25th at night is the Moon and Mars.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
All right, let's do a quick little dive into some constellations. I have been looking at Pegasus a lot because if you just go out and you look almost straight up, you should be able to find this great big square known as Pegasus. And Andromeda is sort of curving off to the left here with these three sets of 2 stars kind of moving away from it, kind of like a cornucopia. So I would say Pegasus, this great square. Andromeda over here. If you have really nice skies, you can see the Andromeda galaxy right about there. And that's right after dinner. So this is right after the sun sets. So 6 o'clock p.m. Let's move more towards 9 o'clock. As you get closer to 9 o'clock, Pegasus is even higher in the sky, so is Andromeda. Cassiopeia is very high up there, and Perseus is one I've been starting to appreciate more and more. It's just got a neat shape to it. And you'll start seeing, if you have a nice clear eastern sky, you'll be able to see Taurus and Orion starting to rise up at that time. If you've got some decent skies, you should also be able to see Aries the Ram, because this looks like a ram. And you've also got Triangulum there, which is 3 stars that make a triangle, much like many other sets of 3 stars. But they're up there. Pisces is kind of tough to find unless you don't have much light. Same with Aquarius and Capricornus. But there you go. Those are the nighttime ones. So let's say you get up in the morning. If you get up in the morning around, let's say 5 a.m., 2 competing ones. You've got the winter constellations over here and, of course, Orion off in the southwest. That looks great. And then off in the southeast, you've got Leo, the lion, looking just majestic with its backward question mark and its right triangle next to it. And that is gorgeous. Now, if you really have good low levels of light pollution, you can find Cancer right here as well. But yeah, and then Venus is rising over here by Virgo, which is tough to find, but it's there. Okay. So with that, I'd like to just remind you about the events. Make sure you get out there. Remember, the Leonid meteor shower is on the 17th, and we've got some nice close encounters. Make sure you get out there, and also pay attention to the channel, because I'm testing out some camera equipment of mine and posting up some adventures of me and one of my friends, just sort of talking about the sky and doing some star hunting, night sky fun things. Okay, so think about that, and make sure you go onto the social media. I haven't been using it that much, but I will be using it more often. But remember, it's a podcast on Stitcher and iTunes. Just search Observing with Webb. Twitter and Instagram is at Mr. Webb PV, and also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, it's PV Planetarium. So anyway, with all of that, with a great November, I wish you all very clear, dark skies, and stay safe from COVID.